I'll start by briefly explaining a bit about us, about the Culture Committee of UCLG, United Cities and Local Governments. So we are a global platform of cities, organizations, and networks to learn, cooperate, and launch policies and programs on the role of culture in sustainable development. As for our mission, we work to promote culture as a pillar of sustainable development through international dissemination and local implementation of the Agenda 21 for Culture, which is our funding document. This was actually the first document worldwide to establish the basis for a commitment by cities and local governments to cultural development. And while many cities and local governments from all over the world have adopted this document to be the guide for their cultural policies. Another policy document that reinforces this vision is Culture, Fourth Pillar of Sustainable Development. Here you can see a visual representation of our narrative. So instead of the triangle of sustainable development with its three pillars, economy, social inclusion, and the environment, we propose a square that includes culture in it, because we believe that the reality of cities, territories, and their development cannot be explained without culture. Well, I'll go very briefly on what we do. So we organize an international award every 2 years, which recognizes both the work of cities and personalities in the field of culture and sustainable development. We also host a database of good practices on culture in sustainable cities. Every 2 years, we convene a global summit on culture, which gathers hundreds of cultural stakeholders from around the globe. We also run different programs to support capacity building and the elaboration and implementation of cultural policies. And finally, we advocate for culture to be included in the UN Agenda 2030 and the SDGs, which I'll explain in a minute. In terms of culture in the SDGs, it is important to note that in 2018, we published Culture in the SDGs, a guide for local action. This document makes explicit how culture relates to and enables each one of the 17 SDGs. You can actually see that in the page, one of the pages of this guide, which is related to SDG 11 as an example. Also, the guide goes beyond explaining how culture is relevant for each one of the SDGs and details how cities can do about it and provides with illustrative examples of how cities make these effective. As for the image on the right, one of our main advocacy tasks is the work we do with the Culture 2030 Goal campaign, which is formed by several global cultural networks to advocate for the role of culture in sustainable development. This initiative is the continuation of the Culture 2015 Goal campaign, which was created in 2013 to call for culture to be included in the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs that was adopted in September 2015. And well, we believe that cultural aspects are core components of human and sustainable development, and that they play a crucial role for the overall 2030 agenda to be successful, including the areas where these connections may only be just implicit. This is why, in the context of UNESCO's Mondiacult 2022, the Culture 2030 Goal campaign organized various sessions and presented a proposal for a standalone culture goal in the post-2030 sustainable framework for development. And well, we'll finish by briefly mentioning the two massive online open courses that bring us here today, which are based on two reports that we published in 2021. So the first one is Cultural Action Supporting Gender Equality in Cities and Territories, which was based on the report written by Farida Shahid. And the other one is the role of culture in climate resilient development, based on the report coordinated by Andrew Potts. Both of these reports had an open call process where cities and cultural actors could provide examples of good practices in the field. Some of these also appear in the MOOCs, such as Valencia and Izmir, who are here to present them. And these examples constitute practical pathways to further advance towards sustainable cities and territories, and making it through a cultural lens. You can find these documents on our website, and we will shortly post the links to the chat. And well, that would be it from my side. I'll hand over the floor to Marta Llobet from the UCLG Culture Committee as well, who's going to moderate the next segment.
Yes, thank you so much, Agnes, for this presentation. And thank you also, Juan Carlos and Valeria from the UCLG Learning Team for organizing this nice session. We start this segment, the segment of the city's presentation, presenting Jaume Mata from Valencia and Ojdan Joskun from Izmir. We will start first with Jaume Mata. He is the head of sustainable tourism of Visit Valencia. Valencia submitted very generously the tourism sustainability strategy of Valencia as a case study for the report and MOOC on culture and climate resilient development. And as you may have seen in the MOOC, this good practice shows the interlinkages between culture and tourism, with decarbonization and the reduction of its water footprint. And it also raises awareness at personal and collective level towards climate action, among others. And it is connected to SDG 12 mainly, and also to SDGs 3, 6, 7, 11, of course, and 17. Mr. Mata, thank you very much for joining us today. Please tell us more about this study case. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marta. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon from Valencia. Let me show you. I will share my presentation, my brief presentation, just to give you an overview of our case. Right? Can you see that? Good. Okay. Well. First of all, Visit Valencia. We are a foundation presided by the municipality, and it's a public-private foundation. So we have both the administration, the public, and the private sector working on our strategy, on our marketing actions, and all the kind of activities we do. Where are we? Because many people could know what is Valencia. Valencia is the third city of Spain. It's a medium city. We are 800,000 people living in the city, 1.5 if we take all the metropolitan area, and we are by the Mediterranean coast in the city. So we are quite well connected, and we have become a blooming European destination in the last years. I'll give you some figures just to put in context. We are an urban destination, and we are fastly recovering from the COVID, the pandemic, and we are having the same figures that we have before. So it means that same impact, positive and negatives, but that's increasing. So that's why the city, as we are an urban destination, and that's quite a complex system where we have to work. The city decided to get this ambition to become a climate neutral city by the year 2030. Indeed, it's one of the 100 cities chosen by the European Commission to be to be carbon neutral by that year. So if we are in a strategic sector, we are an activity that takes around 10-15% of the economy of the city. We have to get aligned with our city, our community, our administration. And that's why from Visit Valencia, we joined the Glasgow Declaration, and we are working together with other international coalitions and cities to learn, to share, and to work together to this big goal, which is the climate mitigation, the climate change mitigation, and to get this net zero future. That's it's quite well the global ambition that we all have. But the question is how and when to do and how to take actions. Well, the handbook where we were included, our case was included, is very clear. And as it is the Glasgow Declaration, there are 5 commitments to meet. That's a as a good roadmap for us. And in the handbook, as I said, we have to measure, we have to find the ways to mitigate, and it's essential to have a credible accounting. So that's why we are working with in a project, which is also as a PPP project, together with a global company, a Valencian company that's running the water the system in the water distribution for the city, but it's also an international and has the consultancy. So we all together we run this project. It's how to measure the carbon footprint of the whole tourist activity in the city. It was the first time that a city got this measurement. So we already knew since that was for the year 19. So we already knew where we were producing these main emissions related to tourism, and it was split in the well, we reached the three scopes for gas emissions, and we divided the report on 10 chapters, so we could understand what piece of the cake it's from lighting, from cultural attractions, from transport, etc. That's measuring. That's also credible accounting, because we not only made this calculation with this company, all these engineers, because you need knowledge, you need data, and you need technology to get this point. But we not only did this measurement according to the ISO 1464, but we also certified the report by that time, and we did it also for the water footprint. So all the measurements has been verified by this third party. So the data, it's quite a good reference for all the destinations to get an idea how to do it and where to look for. And we already published all these reports for the year 19, and we are now finishing the certification for the year 21. That's why it's not yet published, because we are working with the auditors to get all the data and to get all these clarifications they need. So once again, we're going to have this picture of the year 21 and the comparison with the pre-pandemic year activity, and how it's performing the city, and what kind of chapters are we working on. And it reflects not only our action, but the whole action of the city referred to tourism. So that's why it's so useful. So for public services, all this transport, or lighting, water distribution, shopping, etc. And what's the main topic of this session? It's cultural activities. So I give you an idea of our cultural offer in the city. So we are quite well now, because I put in my background the image of one of the big resorts. It's called City of Arts and Sciences, which includes museums, science museum, the planetarium, the Palace of Arts, the aquarium, etc. There's a school of music inside also. So, well, from this to the small museums, this is the big stake, because people, when visiting urban destinations, they want to meet the local atmosphere. We want to meet people. The main attraction is us, people, the food, the traditions, and to sit in an open space, sharing with the residents, etc. But also specific cultural activities and exhibitions that we have, all these museums and the network. We measure that, and for instance, this is the data that we got in 2021. We already have, for the main resorts, the main cultural resorts, their carbon footprint. So we are now measuring their evolution, how they are together with the city, because it's overall plan, how they are reducing, how they will mitigate, and how we all together are contributing to this common goal, which is the net zero. Being very fast, but just to have a clear idea, and all these documents are available on our website. So we are glad to show how we are doing that. So it's public methodology, it's international, it's accountable, and well, it's a way to do it if you want to take action on this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jaume Mata, for this presentation. We know that it's not enough time to explain in detail all this strategy, which is really interesting. We see that it links very specific challenge, the climate urgency that we have, the climate action, with one sector that is rising day by day, cultural tourism or tourism, and which is really important for the sustainability of a city like Valencia. So thank you so much. I would like to ask perhaps now participants if you have any question for Jaume Mata on the strategy that he just explained. If not, oh, thank you for sharing with us the link. If
it's
not,
available in several languages, so don't hesitate to visit that one.
Thank you so much. Okay, then I would say then that let's move to the next presentation. We also have here Dr. Ozan Coşkun from Izmir. First of all, thank you very much for being here today, because we know that you had familiar commitments, really important issues that we are really thankful for your participation.
I think so. Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Ozan Coşkun from Izmir is an architect working at the Izmir Metropolitan Municipality at the Directorate of the Historic Environment and Cultural Assets. Izmir also contributed to both reports on culture and gender equality and culture and climate resilient development, and we are really grateful for that. And today, Dr. Ozan will present the case study rehabilitation of the 848th Street and restoration of Ahmet Aga Mansion, which is featured both in the report and the MOOC on culture and climate resilient development. And just as a review, this good practice is focused on adaptation and mitigation measures to safeguard cultural heritage, to reduce the carbon footprint, and to increase the quality of life of the communities. And it is connected to SDG 9 mainly, and SDGs 11 and 17. So Dr. Coşkun, thank you for being here today. Please tell us more about this project. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to congratulate Jaume for this impressive project. I really liked it. Congratulations. I'm here to present you the 848th Street Rehabilitation and Ahmet Aga Mansion Restoration on behalf of Izmir Metropolitan Municipality. This implementation is a good example which is considering the balance of heritage and sustainable development. I'm having a trouble. Izmir is the third most populated city of Turkey with 4.5 million population. Archaeological excavations reveal that the city was inhabited since 8500 BC without interruption. In the Hellenistic and Roman period, the city was a small port town that located on the outskirts of Kadifakale Mountain. Kemeraltı Bazaar was established surrounding the inner port. Life has continued in the Kemeraltı Bazaar from the Hellenistic period to present. Bazaar is 55 hectares in size and includes archaeological and urban sites. It was the heart of the commercial life in the Ottoman period. Armenians, Jews, Levantines, and Turks were living together in harmony those days. After the 19th century, the city started to lose its economic importance. Some of these historic sites were abandoned, and the degradation process started. Nevertheless, still many preserved historic sites in variety of different cultures exist in Kemeraltı and its surrounding. Kemeraltı was declared as renewal area in 2007, which allows public bodies to take urgent actions for conservation and rehabilitation of the area. The Directorate of Historical Environment and Cultural Assets, which was established in 2002, have carried out many conservation projects for this area. Also, the district municipality, culture and tourism, director of the general foundations have been carried out many projects. Unfortunately, these projects, which were carried out separately by different authorities, didn't achieve holistic rehabilitation in the area. It was realized that achieving success can only be provided by the participation of all related authorities, public and private institutions, universities, site users, and local communities under common strategies. In this scope, İzmir Tarih project has started by İzmir Metropolitan Municipality in 2013 for the purpose of conservation, rehabilitation, and regeneration of the city center. The project has been carried out on the basis of İzmir History Project Design Strategy Report. The primary beneficiaries of the project are the local communities. As one of the outstanding examples of local administration approach in Turkey, the project primarily aims to strengthen the memory of inhabitants related to the history of the city. Also, it aims to prevent the gentrification in the area and following the sustainable development goals during its rehabilitation by preserving current social and cultural values. Also, the project aims increasing the variety of site users, such as youths and students, by supplying education, facility, and accommodation functions. Here is the İzmir Tarih Project Center, Ahmet Ağa mentioned, and İzmir Tarih Design Atelier, where is used as a communicator between local communities and authorities. The project follows participatory design decision-making process via organizing events and workshops, meetings. The problems and potentials of the sites are evaluated, and based on these evaluations, operational guidelines were prepared. As an output of this project, historical Kemeraltı Bazaar and its surrounding has been added to the UNESCO World Heritage Tentative List with the name The Historical Port City of İzmir in 2012. The rehabilitation and restoration projects at regional and building scales were developed for historical Kemeraltı Bazaar within İzmir Tarih project. The renewal of infrastructure system in Kemeraltı project was prepared. It's an ongoing implementation. It will prevent the rain floods coming from the Kadifekale mountain. It has two phases. The first phase is the interception channel implementation that surrounds the area. The second phase is the renewal of the infrastructure system in Kemeraltı. Integrated sewer and stormwater lines, which cause savage floods on heavy rainy days, are being separated. All communication, energy, stormwater, drinking water, sewerage, and lighting lines will be renewed in an energy-efficient manner. Besides, all pavements will be renewed with Bergamo granite stones, unique to the region. Kemeraltı Lighting Master Plan was designed by Aruk in our coordination for the bazaar. Master Plan aims to integrate social, ecological, and economical aspects of planning into the process of creating a sustainable future for the city. Within the scope of the Master Plan, in addition to the transportation access, spatial design suggestions were made for architectural references, forming the identity of the region, entrance points to the area, green areas, and squares. Sodium steam old street lightings are being replaced with energy-efficient, single-center controllable DALI system LED lightings. The reduction of 8 tons of carbon dioxide emissions and 117,000 kilowatt per hour energy consumption will be achieved after all the street lightings changed. However, the most important objective of the plan is to create a dialogue with light between different cultural groups. The common language becomes play by playgrounds designed with lights. I'm very proud to announce that Kemeraltı Lighting Master Plan has won the first prize of the Lucy Cities and Lighting Awards in 2022. The 848th Street, where Ahmet Ağa Mansion is located in Kemeraltı Bazar. It's the pilot implementation area of the renewal project. In addition to the infrastructural renewal, the facades of the buildings were also rehabilitated. The adaptation of the lighting system mitigates the carbon emissions and gains energy efficiency with this project. The separation of sewer and stormwater lines prevents sewage flows on heavy rainy days. The restoration and rehabilitation of existing buildings enables to life cycle. Since the project area is an urban and archaeological site, the excavations were meticulously carried out under the supervision of the museum. And the street is completely commercial area. So all excavations were carried out at night, outside the working hours of the tradesmen. The Ahmet Ağa Mansion restoration was completed in 2013, and the mansion has been serving as the Office of Directorate of Historical Environment and Cultural Assets. The mansion is the coordination center of all projects developed with a participatory process specific to the region. Achieving the reconciliation with the residents and adapting their essential requests in the project was challenging. The mansion is a cultural property in need of protection and dated back to 19th century. This mansion was used for purposes other than housing by late 19th century. Firstly as Gendarmerie School, then as Izmir headquarters of Committee of Union and Progress, and thirdly as the National Library. The building was abandoned and derelict for many years. Structurally, the building is divided into two as main and secondary structure. After a fire, the inner structure of the secondary building was collapsed, while only main body walls were remained with serious cracks on it. The main building's roof was partially collapsed. The initial aims to complete destroyed parts and reinforcement of existing body to protect the cultural heritage values that representing the 19th century urban Izmir housing characteristics and provide a comfortable environment for office users. Besides, the project aims to increase energy efficiency by the usage of energy efficient VRV systems, the addition of insulation on the ceiling, the recreation of the basement for better indoor air circulation, and the increase of ceiling of the building envelope. The restoration of the building reduced the risk of cultural heritage loss and sustained the continuity of traditional construction system. The energy efficiency was achieved without compromising its heritage value and authenticity. Again, I'm very proud to share that Ahmet Ağa Mansion restoration was chosen to publish in Historic Building Retrofit Atlas website. This database presents best practice examples how historic buildings can be renovated to achieve high levels of energy efficiency while respecting and protecting its heritage significance. And in this diagram, you can see the sustainable development and climate action goals of these projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Özden Coşkun. This is a really, really comprehensive project. Congratulations also to you. Really today we have two impressive case studies. I don't know if participants, you have any questions for Dr. Coşkun. There is a question in the chat, but I don't know if it's explicitly aimed to Dr. Coşkun. So Wendy Atieno from UN Habitat asks if how can we mainstream culture international urban policies, especially the intangible cultural aspects? This is a very broad question, I believe. I don't know if Dr. Coşkun.
Martha, can you repeat the question? I couldn't understand.
Yes, sure. It is in the chat though. How can we mainstream culture international urban policies, especially the intangible cultural aspects? And it is by Wendy Atieno from UN Habitat.
It's a hard question. I should think more of it. I don't know how to explain it, but I think Jordi wants to explain something. Please help us, Jordi.
Yes, Jordi just raised his hand. Please, the floor is yours.
Urler, Osdun, and moltíssimes gràcies, Jaume, for these great presentations. The question by Wendy is a very difficult one. I'm not sure this is the moment to answer that question, but let me be very brief and very direct. The question on the mainstreaming culture international urban policies. Well, it depends of the place in which cultural policies and cultural actors sit in the national delivery of the Agenda 2030 in each one of the United Nations member states. Some of them have just ignored heritage, creativity, diversity in the delivery of the SDGs. Some others have given some consideration to some cultural actors. We in UCLG, together with the Culture 2030 campaign, wrote one report in 2019 analyzing the submissions, the national reviews that were sent in the years 2016 to 2019, 4 years, and the presence of culture in the national urban policies, in the national plans for the achievement of the SDGs was very poor. Yeah, I think that I will leave it here, and we're happy to broaden the answer if relevant a little later.
Thank you so much, Jordi Pascual from UCLG Culture Committee coordinator. I've just seen that we have many questions on the chat. We have, for example, a question from Lucas Dedin. How was the process of dialogue with the wider community moving all these projects forward? It is a question for Austin.
It was challenging. The process of dialogue is not easy, but you should find a common ground as an expert, because while you are choosing the beneficiaries of the project as local communities, you should respect their needs, but as an expert, you can't give all the answers to their needs. It's a challenging process. How can we extend the community involvement? I think the social media can be used, and not always the one-by-one meetings. Social media can be used, and also the questionnaires can be made. I hope it's a relevant answer.
Yes, I believe it is, Dr. Joskun. We have other questions, but I'm afraid we won't have time for all of them. Thank you, Mr. Jaume Mata. You've just left your email address for further questions, but perhaps we could answer one or two more.
Yeah, sure. I've read two questions. If you want, I can summarize.
Yes, please.
Well, the first is about how to apply this methodology for other countries in the case of Africa. I've read the question. Well, we have been, you know, the pilots, so we wanted to try to test it together with this company, which is acting in many countries and several continents. So they already are talking with people in South America, for instance. I don't know in Africa, but I can introduce you. So they are willing to let you know how they are producing this technology. Is not ours. We have been the pilots. We are willing to expand, because I mean the challenge is global. So we found a solution that is comparable to other ones, but we are open. And I mean, it's good to know that it's not a public administration which is running, it's a public company or a private company which is working, and it's a business case. So free to contact, and I will be glad to share. Okay. The other question from Sarah, it's about the impacts of tourism in services and facilities and cultural attractions. Well, we are a growing destination, and we are following the same path that others, where they failed and they were successful. So we are now seeing this, as I said at the beginning, the business is back to normal, and that's bad news, because priority is economic impact and occupancy and works, and and jobs, to have more jobs. And this is the bad language that we wouldn't like to hear, but it's the priority for everybody to live and to restore. But at the same time, we are caring of looking for what's important and what's urgent. What's urgent, okay, it's to get back the business, but what is important is don't hustle, don't get hustled, and don't produce more impacts than we have seen in other places. So of course we are seeing these impacts, goods and bads, and that's why we are worried, and we are trying to say, okay, let's learn from others, and we'll try to help others also to find the right solutions. So I mean, it's a working process, and it's a matter of exchange and network and teamwork. Yes, it's a teamworking,
Dear Marta, I would like to answer Sarah's question. How do you include migrants and marginal population in the Light Festival?
Of course.
Participate. In recent days, we had a implementation, like a workshop with children. Half of them are migrants and half of them are Turks living in the residential area of the Kemal Atatürk area, and we implemented the playscapes lightings. They played with colorful lights, and they learned the shadows, colorful shadows. We made this workshop with Arup, and they made some questionnaire to the children about the belongings of their identities to the area. How did they feel when we implemented it, or before and after? We tried to understand their feelings and belongings. That's it. And they can, I think, find this workshop on the Arup's website. They can search.
Thank you so much. I believe we don't have more time for questions, right, Juan Carlos?
Yeah, I think like most of them have been answered, but if there's anything.
Yes, if there are other questions, you can direct them to the address that Jaume Mata just provided, or to us, and we will try to answer them. And to finalize this segment, I would like to present to you very briefly the case of Buenos Aires in relation to the Culture and Gender report and MOOC. It has not been possible for Buenos Aires to join us today, but I would try to explain a little bit what this city has achieved, which is a lot. And first of all, I would like to touch upon the relation of culture and gender. And as you may know, after taking the MOOC lessons, culture permeates all aspects of human life, including city narratives and everyday life in cities. So every city has its narrative. It is what makes it attractive also for tourism, for example. And it has a lexicon of meanings in the names of streets, plazas, buildings, who is reflected and who not in monuments, statues, and public imagery, in public events, celebrations, commemorations, in museums, in galleries, cultural venues, etc. And as Agenda 21 for Culture says, places and territories are social constructs reflecting the history, identity, and values of populations that inhabit them. So city narratives reflect societal inclusions and exclusions as well. And sadly, they are rarely gender inclusive and commonly exclude marginalized groups. So being aware of this and acknowledging that culture has an important role in finding solutions to the complex issues of urban metropolises and also cities, small and big ones, and including making women's right to the city a reality, the autonomous city of Buenos Aires committed to introducing strategic planning tools in local cultural policy with the goal to restructure and revamp the cityscape and cultural lexicon in a comprehensive way as well, along with civil society, cultural actors, academics, gender experts, and the private sector. At policy level, first, two interesting measures that they adopted, as Luciana Blasco, Vice Secretary of Cultural Policies, mentioned in the interviews that fed the report that Farida Shahid, former UN Special Rapporteur for Cultural Rights, said. First, the co-creation of an agenda for the equal rights of women and diversities that not only seeks to ensure that the content generated by the Ministry of Culture for the community has a gender perspective and makes visible as active participants in the city's art scenes, but also that the ministry work team is consolidated as an actor aware of the need to eradicate inequalities and discrimination based on gender and sexual orientations. And on the other hand, the permanent networking with other government and civil society organizations to reach citizens and be in conversation with them, including all voices such as LGBTQI+ groups. And very briefly, in terms of cultural programs and activities, let me highlight some measures. First of all, Mujeres Detrás del Casco, Women Behind the Historic Courtyard. And this initiative seeks to acknowledge and make visible in audiovisual artworks women as contributors to the material and immaterial, tangible and intangible heritage of the city. Campaigns such as Mujeres Acá y Ahora, Women Here and Now, and Acá Estamos Nosotras, Here We Are, the Women, run by the Recoleta Cultural Center. The latter campaign brought together more than 1,000 women of different ages and from different parts of the country and backgrounds, and they collectively reflected on the current scenario of the struggles of feminist movements through workshops, talks, recitals, and visual exhibitions. Then Retratos de Masculinidades, Portraits of Masculinities, is a writing competition aimed at teenagers and young men who recognize themselves in masculine identities to put words to their life journeys. It was organized by the Complejo Teatral Buenos Aires. And finally, in the framework of the 130th anniversary of the Teatro Colón, one of the most important cultural centers of the city, local female musicians performed symphonic and chamber concerts, interpreting pieces written by great female composers, many of whom had been systematically overlooked, their works being published under male names or simply considered as minor creators. So in conclusion, these are some of the many measures that show that cities and regions are leading the way towards gender equality, and that gender equality requires an urgent and profound cultural transformation. Well, that would be it. Thank you so much. I hope that you had an overview, at least, of this initiative by Buenos Aires.